Hey there, it's Serena, and today I'm going to go over how to win the Doffy matchup. For this guide, I am running the same list that I showcased in my Treasure Cup deck list update, which I'll link in the description. During this video, I'll go over the goals I have for this matchup, what I'm mulligan for, how I play my curve, some tips to help, and then showcase it all at the end with some gameplay. Your main goal into the Doffy matchup is to starve them and make it to late game with a developed board. If you have a developed board in the late game, it allows you to continuously play blockers and draw cards to prevent yourself from losing life while still being able to control the board. The curve that I found that allows me to do this best is first. It allows you to maximize your card advantage early to preserve your life and gives you an extra turn to set up your board before they can establish any bodies. In your opening hand, you want to look for Kurita and early cost reduction and removal like Patchwork and Kairos. Rebecca Surgery can replace any one of these if you think the rest of your hand will keep you safe like Counter or Rebecca blockers. Also, you don't need to look for Luffy, Jack, or Lumbus because you will be able to find them within later turns. And what is important is that you see strong removal within your first couple turns to make sure that you don't lose within 3 turns. Moving on to how I play my curve. On your 1-down turn, you will always leader search to give you the maximum amount of cards in hand. There isn't much reason to play anything else like Kurita or Rebecca Searcher because you can always play it next turn while still being able to search. On 3-down, you want to start establishing board. Here you want to drop Kurita or any other low-cost body and use your leader search to set up for future turns while preserving a lot of card advantage. If you have a Rebecca Searcher and no other low-cost cards to drop you to 6 cards in hand, you can trash the Rebecca Search if she doesn't reveal any important cards for your curve to let you dig a little bit deeper with your leader search. On 5-down, you look to play Patchwork or Toy Soldier with a Kairos to KO a 4-cost character. If they use leader ability last turn on a Jinbei, then you can use your Kurita Rush to poke it and get a card out of their hand or remove a body on the board. If you don't have Patchwork plus Kairos, any other combination of removal will also work in the same manner. On 7-dawn, this is when you want to start establishing board that gains you a lot of value on a 6. In most games, you want to establish Olympus and Kairos to guarantee removing a body and poke rest of characters with 2 swings. If they only dropped 5k characters, you can also use Luffy as removal because they need to drop 2 cards for his swings instead of 1. If they have no bodies on board, or you establish cost reduction on an earlier turn, you can drop Jack. Most people would think Hadruden is a good play here. I personally don't because here you need to establish either a wide board or bodies that can't be removed by Jozu or Raging Tiger. Past 7-dawn, your options widen a lot so you can craft your own plays depending on what you have in hand. The main rule to follow is maximizing value on your characters. Because Doffy is so aggressive, you don't have the time for your characters to sit around and do nothing unless you already took complete control of the board. Now, since you're at High Dawn, you have the option to play high-cost characters with low-cost counterparts to maximize their value, like Patchwork with Jack or Hadruden with the Kairos. You should also be swinging with your characters as soon as they're played. You're okay with your opponent swinging at Olympus or Brooks because they end up acting as a pseudo-blocker that you can now easily replay off of Rebecca. Another rule to follow is not dropping below 2 life without certain safeguards established. If you sit at 1, your opponent has a lot of pressure on you because they can easily bounce your Rebecca blockers and swing big to push you at 0. You can safely drop to 1 when you have a developed board and you have a Sabo on board. Sabo is your most important defensive card because your opponent cannot remove Sabo without committing a lot of Dawn to play Jozu or Raging Tiger, which makes their swings a lot easier to counter out of. A few smaller things to think about is removing small characters when possible to prevent Lonjos from getting free value. I also look to play an Olympus Brook Jack combo because it allows you to remove 2 characters for free every turn. I'm going to voice over this after the fact because my audio wasn't recording during the game, but I still want you guys to be able to hear my thought process that I had during this game. Even though our best curve in this matchup is first, our opponent unfortunately gave us second. It's not too bad though because our deck still has plays going second, albeit a little bit more limited than we want. Don't mind the mouse movement, I just fidget a lot when I'm playing. So this first hand we keep here because 2 Rebecca on second curve, 2 Rebecca blockers is very useful early, because we have the Dawn to search stuff out of our trash while we still have Kairos to play off of it. We also want the Rebecca Searcher because on our 4 Dawn turn, we want to play Patchwork into Kyros. So on our 2 Dawn turn, we're going to lead our ability to search, hopefully hit a Kyros or maybe some 2k counters, and then next we'll play Rebecca Searcher to grab a Patchwork. Now just taking some time to think here. And there we go, we have the Patchwork. That's pretty much everything we needed. And the second one is going to be super helpful later too, when if we need a couple more options on maybe like 6 Dawn to KO stuff. So here he's going to leader swing, stacked with Perona. And then I guess he kind of messed up his stack and didn't put the correct card on top. But this is okay because now we can just easily use our Rebecca blocker to grab back a 2k to keep our hand at a point where we have a lot of counter in hand. We have no 2k, so it's going to be really hard to counter out of 7s or even 6s. Here he's going to swing 6, and I can be glad that I grab back that 2k instead of the jack because we don't really need jack right now. And here on 6 Dawn, we don't really want to play Hot Truden because we want to be able to clear these bodies. So instead we're going to play Patchwork to clear the Weevil, and then Rebecca grab back the jack so that we have set up for next turn, and then we can play out the Leo to KO that Weevil. And now that we're at 6, we can search later again. I'm going to grab the Kurita because we also have the Luffy, and we want to make sure that Luffy has rush when we drop him on the board. So this is how we played this out. Gave us a lot of options for our 8 Dawn turn while still clearing board. Raging Tiger, both blockers because he wants to put pressure on my life. That's perfectly fine. We have enough counter for both of these swings. It really doesn't matter if he plays Raging Tiger because even with Raging Tiger, he doesn't have the board to pressure my life or pressure my board, so I'm not particularly worried about it. And then here, instead of playing Kurita into Luffy, we're going to play Jack with Patchwork because he only has 1 body on board, and then next turn we'll be able to drop Jack, or we'll be able to drop Kurita plus Luffy and be able to attach more Dawn to Luffy to swing at his characters without really being under threat of Luffy getting swung at and us losing him. So here he is going to look at the top of his deck and then play 3 bodies this turn. But with our board set up, that is perfectly fine. Swings 9 at the jack. He wants to establish body and recur some card advantage, but we get to keep the jack because of how he swung. So here we grab the Sabo. We really want to keep card advantage again, like I said. And then now we can swing 8 into the 6k boa, and that forces him to either pitch half his hand or he takes it. He's just going to take it. Swing 5. Again, we're forcing out a lot of cards because if he doesn't take this, we swing jack and then he loses it. And then we're just going to full clear a board here. And we're in a really, really secure position because even though we don't have a lot of hand, and he could hypothetically just swing at our board really big, we have 2 threats on the board, and he doesn't really have any ways to KO both of them. So if either one of them sticks, it's perfectly fine, and like later in the game, we can recycle it back with Rebecca. And once again, like he doesn't know what a stack is, he's just going to swing at the jack to remove it. He gets it, that's perfectly fine. And then here, we're going to use Rebecca to dig, put some more cards in trash for Luffy, and now we found another Luffy. And again, that is amazing because now we again have 2 big bodies established. He can't remove both of them at the same time, and we're just constantly building hand back up. So the longer this game goes on and the more these characters stick, the harder it'll be for him to swing at it and remove it. We're just going to pass here because we're perfectly fine with him keeping this character. We're at a super healthy life, super healthy hand. If he wants to swing at my face with the second character, we're completely fine taking that. If he wants to swing at my Luffy, he's wasting a lot of Dawn. Here he gets a lot of cards back in hand, but again, that's fine. We have double Luffy, so we can just full clear his board again. Again, we're going to abuse that rush, and now, since we have double Luffy, or I think I swing for a face here. So now that we have double Luffy, again, like, he has to swing big at my characters. Even though I have 2 cards in hand, it's fine if he takes one of them because I'm just going to restand him, the other one, and I can keep pushing for game. So again, this is a super healthy spot. Like, even though he has 4 life, 6 cards in hand, he has no board, and he has completely lost control of the game. And from here on out, with a man cherry with 4 life, we're perfectly fine to just continue stabilizing from here and clearing his board every turn. And then here, I think I just take this because I prioritize that man cherry over the Luffy, and I don't really have the cards in trash to restand 2 Luffys every single turn. There really isn't a benefit for restanding only 1 Luffy because the Luffy that didn't restand is always going to become the target. Again, we're perfectly fine here. Best card here definitely would be an Orlumbus, or not a Kyros, because then we can just free play Orlumbus into Kyros, KO one of their bodies, and then just use our Kurita Rush to swing into that Rested Moria, and then use our Luffy to swing into the Jinbei. And here we've reassigned the Luffy to make sure that it doesn't die, and to make sure that we don't deck out. Again, super secure position. Even if you red rocks here, I think we're still perfectly fine because of our man cherry and our Orlumbus. Now he's just constantly trying to keep card advantage, and we're just gonna take this to rebuild our hand. And we're perfectly fine dropping down to 3 life. We're in no danger of getting gamed anytime soon. Here we don't really need that. The next, just gonna poke at face. If he decides to take here, we can kind of pressure him to game. We're gonna poke again, get a little greedy because this kind of forces us to have King Kong. But if he doesn't take this and he drops a 1k, then that makes it a lot easier for Luffy to clear his board. So just taking the time to think here, like obviously in this game, even if we're in a really good position, we don't want to make any big misplays and completely throw the game. So just fidgeting with everything to help me think. And we're gonna do the most obvious play. Again, swing 7 at his characters. He's gonna counter. That's fine. Now we just return some cards back to deck, reset our Luffy to give and let us think a little bit more about whether or not we want to swing again with that Luffy and put him into a little bit of a danger spot. And yes, we will. We're going to take that character. Now we can easily just drop this man cherry. Turn 2. And then we grab back a Rebecca, because here we're going to clear this. We're going to easily clear that Jinbei, and he's going to forfeit because we have easily taken over the board, whittled down his hand, super safe position, and that man cherry is going to stick and recycle blockers for the rest of the game. That's it for this guide. Thanks for watching to the end. I hope this was informative and helps people with their Doffy matchups. Even though this guide is made with my list in mind, the early strategies I follow should work with most lists because it's mostly using the stable Dressrosa core. This is my first matchup guide, so please leave a comment about anything you want to see included on the next one, and if there's any questions about this one. It'll help a ton. See you soon. Bye bye.